On the night of June 9, 1912, the town of Villisca, Iowa, experienced an event that would forever stain its history. 8 people, 6 from the Moore family and 2 young guests, were murdered in their sleep. The killer escaped, leaving no clear evidence behind, and to this day, over a century later, the crime remains unsolved. What unfolded inside that small white house shook not only the people of Villisca but captured the attention of the entire nation. The brutality of the crime, the mystery of the killer's identity, and the bizarre details of the crime scene have made the Villisca Axe Murders one of the most chilling unsolved cases in American history. Let's explore the lives lost, the crime scene, the suspects, and the unanswered questions that still haunt this small Iowa town. The Moores were one of Villisca's well-known and respected families. Josiah Moore, known as Joe to his friends, was a prosperous businessman. He owned and operated a hardware store in town, which provided the family a comfortable life. Joe was known for his strong work ethic, but he was also a devoted father and husband. His wife Sarah was active in the local Presbyterian church and in the community. Together they had 4 children: Herman, age 11, Mary Catherine, age 10, Arthur, age 7, and Paul, just 5 years old. On June 9, 1912, the Moores spent the evening at the Children's Day program at their church. Sarah, who was an organizer of the event, had been busy preparing for the celebration. That night, the Moore children performed in various skits and songs, their laughter and joy filling the church. With them were 2 young guests, Lena and Ina Stillinger, neighbors of the Moores, who were invited to spend the night with Mary Catherine. After the event ended around 9:30 p.m., the family and their guests walked back to the Moore residence. It was a typical summer evening in Iowa, warm and peaceful. The town of Villisca had no idea that by the next morning, their world would be turned upside down. On the morning of June 10, 1912, something unusual caught the attention of Mary Peckham, the Moore family's next-door neighbor. The usually bustling household was uncharacteristically quiet. By mid-morning, the Moores' home remained silent. No sounds of children playing or the family going about their daily routines. Concerned, Mary approached the house, knocked on the door, but received no answer. She called out, but still no response. Feeling that something was terribly wrong, Mary fetched Ross Moore, Josiah's brother. Together they tried to investigate, but the house remained locked. Finally, Ross retrieved a spare key and cautiously entered the house. What he found was beyond anything he could have imagined. Ross Moore's first steps into the house led him to the downstairs bedroom. There, on the bed, he found the bodies of Lena and Ina Stillinger, the young girls who had stayed the night. Their faces were covered, their bodies still. Ross quickly ran for help, summoning the town marshal. Upstairs, the rest of the family lay in their beds. Josiah and Sarah Moore, along with their 4 children, had been attacked while they slept. The instrument of death was an axe, which had been left at the scene, a tool taken from the Moores' own shed. Investigators noted the strikingly methodical nature of the crime. Each victim had been struck in the head multiple times, the blunt force of the blows devastating. Josiah, who seemed to have been the primary target, had been hit so violently that the ceiling above his bed bore deep gouges from the upswing of the axe. What shocked the investigators the most were the strange details left by the killer. Every mirror in the house had been covered with cloth or sheets, and in the kitchen a bowl of bloody water was found, suggesting that the killer had washed up before leaving. A plate of uneaten food was also found on the table, adding to the bizarre nature of the crime scene. In 1912, criminal investigations were nothing like they are today. Forensic science was still in its infancy. The townspeople of Villisca, horrified by the events, flocked to the house, many entering the crime scene before it could be properly secured. Valuable evidence was lost, and as days passed, the investigation grew more complicated. Despite this, several suspects emerged, each more intriguing and troubling than the last. One of the earliest suspects was Reverend George Kelly, a traveling preacher with a troubled past. Kelly had attended the Children's Day service at the Presbyterian Church and was known for his erratic behavior. After the murders, Kelly acted suspiciously, asking people for details about the crime before the news had even spread. In 1917, Kelly shocked the nation by confessing to the murders, claiming that he had been directed by voices in his head. However, his confession was quickly recanted, and after 2 trials, he was acquitted. Another key suspect was Frank F. Jones, a prominent Villisca businessman and state senator. Jones had once employed Josiah Moore, but the 2 men had parted ways under bitter circumstances. There were rumors of a rivalry between them, possibly over business competition or even personal matters, but no substantial evidence linked Jones directly to the crime. Despite his powerful position, many in the town whispered about his possible involvement, though he was never formally charged. There was also William Blackie Mansfield, a known criminal who was suspected of committing similar axe murders in neighboring states. Some believed Mansfield might have been hired by Jones to commit the murders as an act of revenge. However, despite the seemingly strong connections, Mansfield was never convicted. And then there were whispers of other transient workers, hobos and drifters passing through town, though none were ever definitively tied to the killings. In a town as small as Villisca, the idea that the killer could have been someone from outside, a stranger with no personal vendetta, was both terrifying and plausible. The murders left Villisca gripped with fear. Doors that were once left unlocked were now bolted shut. Neighbors who had trusted one another now eyed each other with suspicion. Families stayed inside after dark. And the air of innocence that once defined the small town was forever shattered. The funeral for the Moore family and the Stillinger sisters was one of the largest gatherings in the town's history. The entire community mourned together, but the specter of unanswered questions loomed large. Who could have done this, and why? Despite multiple investigations, including a grand jury inquiry, no one was ever convicted of the murders. Over time, the case grew cold, though the people of Villisca never forgot the horror that had visited their town. Today, the Villisca Axe Murder House stands as a reminder of that tragic night. Preserved much as it was in 1912, the house has become a destination for those drawn by its dark history. But it's not just historians and true crime enthusiasts who visit the site. Many are intrigued by the house's reputation as one of the most haunted locations in the United States. Over the years, numerous visitors and paranormal investigators have reported